Right now, some people frustrated with Elon Musk and his involvement in the federal government are taking out their anger on his company, Tesla.
Some Tesla owners are receiving hate from others for their...
Remember when Elon Musk swung a hammer and broke the truck's window? Yeah, but that wasn't the real issue. The real failure came later, when Tesla tried to build a stainless steel exoskeleton that no machine could shape. They thought they were building the future. Instead, they trapped themselves in it. Production collapsed. Panels wouldn't align. A single stuck pedal forced a total recall. What was supposed to be a war machine became a corporate wound, bleeding money, time, and trust. Now, how did one design decision paralyze an entire company? What broke behind the scenes that Tesla still won't admit? And why are longtime supporters starting to turn against their own brand? We'll break down the mistakes that triggered lawsuits, shut down production, and shook investor confidence. And by the end, you'll understand why even Tesla fans are now asking, did Elon Musk just go too far? Built to break. This wasn't just about cars anymore, it was about survival. Inside Tesla's Giga, Texas plant, workers trained to assemble the Cybertruck quickly realized they weren't just building a new model, they were wrestling with an entirely different species of vehicle. Employees spoke of tools breaking mid-assembly. Components wouldn't fit unless forced. Precision was mandatory, but impossible under rushed conditions. The weight of the materials strained robots built for lighter aluminum or composite panels. It was like trying to run a ballet recital on a construction site. And then came the public backlash. Early buyers began sharing photos of panel gaps wide enough to slide fingers through. One truck had visible holes between the front doors and the A-pillar. Others had misaligned trims, warped seals, and compromised weather insulation. Tesla owners who had championed the brand as the pinnacle of forward-thinking design were now posting side-by-side comparisons with 20-year-old pickups, and the old trucks looked better built. Data started emerging. Reports showed that a shocking percentage of early Cybertrucks required repairs before delivery. Some were returned within days. Forums exploded with frustrated owners describing water leaks, uneven paintless panels, and mysterious dashboard vibrations. And underneath all of this was the one truth Tesla couldn't software update away. You can't code your way out of bad engineering. Meanwhile, on the factory floor, the real problems were just beginning. When innovation ignores reality, when does innovation become destruction? Tesla had always been praised for its minimalist design, but inside the Cybertruck, minimalism had been pushed to the extreme. There were no physical buttons, no dials, not even a stalk for the gear shifter. Everything, mirrors, vents, drive modes, even opening the glove box, required digging through touchscreen menus. That design looked cool in photos, but in the real world, it was a safety risk. Drivers found themselves tapping through screens while on the highway, just to adjust airflow. Adjusting mirrors took multiple steps. The dashboard was a sparse slab of glass and metal that felt more prototype than product. Worse still, the structural issues extended beyond aesthetics. Weather sealing failed in some units. Rain seeped in through trim lines. In certain climates, road noise became deafening. The very steel that was supposed to keep out danger let in discomfort. And then there was the wiper. Because the Cybertruck's windshield was so wide and flat, Tesla had to invent a custom single-arm wiper, longer than any other on the market. But it didn't work. It left streaks, missed corners, and faltered in heavy rain. For a truck marketed as being off-road capable and apocalypse-proof, it struggled to survive a thunderstorm. Tesla's customers didn't just want bold design, they expected it to work. And when the boldness turned into burdens, faith began to crack. Now the entire industry hung in the balance, because Tesla wasn't just building a truck, it was redefining safety. The dream that outsmarted itself. Elon Musk promised the Cybertruck would start at just under $40,000. That was back when dreams were free and stainless steel was still theoretical. Fast forward to 2024, and most deliveries exceeded $100,000 after taxes and add-ons. Consumers who pre-ordered in good faith felt deceived. Many had defended Tesla during delays, price changes, and missed milestones. But now they were being asked to pay luxury prices for what felt like an unfinished experiment. Some paid the price, others pulled out. Then came another twist. Tesla started pushing back estimated delivery dates, citing quality assurance updates. Meanwhile, inside the factory, units were piling up. Hundreds of trucks, partially assembled or awaiting trim fixes, sat idle. Production bottlenecks turned into full-blown stoppages. The dream was no longer delayed, it was on life support. And yet, even in the face of all this, Tesla tried to maintain its image. Sleek press photos, carefully staged event coverage, yet behind the curtain, Workers were being reassigned. Engineers were working double shifts trying to fix fundamental flaws. Service centers scrambled to stock parts for a vehicle no one had experience repairing. We went through hundreds of owner complaints, recall filings, and tear-down photos so you didn't have to. Now you know exactly why the Cybertruck isn't living up to the hype. If that saved you hours of digging, tap subscribe. It's how you can fuel more content like this. Consumers were left in limbo. Some received broken trucks, others received nothing at all. The futuristic promise had become a punchline. Behind closed doors, everything was different. Engineers knew the deadlines were impossible, and then it happened. A single design flaw pushed everything over the edge. The part that was supposed to control acceleration locked in place. The fix would require more than a software patch. It would require Tesla to do something it had never done before: stop. The recall that shattered the hype. Your safety? It became a margin line in a quarterly earnings report. For all its futuristic posturing, the Cybertruck was brought down by something embarrassingly basic: the accelerator pedal. It stuck. In a vehicle that could weigh over 6,000 pounds and rocket from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, that meant disaster. The initial reports came in quietly. A few owners confused, a few forums curious. But then came the video. A Cybertruck accelerating wildly. The pedals seemingly fused to the floor. No floor mat obstruction, no user error. Just raw torque locked in open throttle. Tesla had no choice. They recalled every single Cybertruck on the road, more than 46,000 units. What made this worse wasn't the number, it was the timing. Tesla had barely begun full deliveries. This wasn't a mid-cycle defect, this was foundational. The Cybertruck was still in rollout mode. Every single owner was impacted, and worse, deliveries were paused indefinitely. Inside Tesla's Austin, Texas factory, shock turned to paralysis. Production lines were frozen, trucks were quarantined, and what triggered this halt was even more shocking. A supplier leaked that the pedals material had been changed weeks before launch. A lighter composite, less expensive, easier to mold. But one critical flaw: under heat and pressure, the pedal could deform. It could wedge under the trim. That was it. The decision to cut a few ounces of weight ended up costing Tesla hundreds of millions of dollars. And more importantly, its credibility. Across the ocean, rivals were watching and preparing their counterattack. The factory that fell silent. How does a production empire fall? One faulty pedal at a time. Tesla's Gigafactory in Texas had only recently hit stride when the news broke. Employees who were scaling up for 24-hour cycles suddenly found themselves reassigned or sent home. Pallets of accelerator components were pulled from the line. Hundreds of finished trucks were moved to holding areas where they sat under sun and rain, collecting dust and doubt. They had promised 5,000 Cybertrucks a week by year's end. That goal was now fantasy. To restart the line, Tesla needed more than a new part. They needed to redesign, retool, retest, and regain regulatory clearance. That meant weeks, maybe months of downtime. Every minute became a gift to competitors. The numbers were brutal, with each truck valued at over $80,000 and more than 2,000 unsellable units parked and waiting. The inventory cost ballooned into the hundreds of millions. Investors began to panic. Wall Street downgraded Tesla's outlook. Analysts labeled the Cybertruck a liability, and in the middle of this corporate implosion, the workers were left in limbo. Internal footage leaked of half-built trucks lined up like tombstones. The silence inside the plant was deafening. What had once been a marvel of speed and innovation was now a monument to overreach. The numbers were worse than expected. Over $200 million in unsellable inventory. The loyalty breakpoint. The Cybertruck had built an army of true believers. People who waited 4 years. People who defended delays. People who saw themselves as pioneers of a new era. But when their vehicles tried to launch themselves through garage walls, that faith snapped. Tesla was inundated. Refund demands skyrocketed. Phone lines jammed. Service centers were overwhelmed, undertrained, and understocked. A movement that had been fed by loyalty was now erupting in fury. Lawsuits followed quickly. The first class action came from California, then Texas, then Florida. The claims were eerily similar. Tesla sold a dangerous vehicle and knew about the issue. Evidence mounted in forms and leaks. Internal emails suggested engineers had raised concerns. Proposed fixes were ignored. Media outlets dug deeper. One whistleblower claimed that beta testing on the pedal was never finalized. That production pressure silenced safety protocol. Another engineer anonymously revealed that emergency mechanical stops had been discussed, but shelved. And through all this, the buyers told their stories. One owner watched his truck jump a curb while backing out. Another described slamming on the brakes as his driveway became a launch pad. These were not isolated glitches. They were repeated nightmares. The consequences would ripple across continents, through courts, factories, and investor portfolios. Silence isn't a strategy. For a company built on boldness, Tesla went quiet. Elon Musk, usually the loudest voice in tech, vanished. No tweets, no live streams, no press briefings, just silence. Customers grew restless. Analysts called it a mistake. Some speculated it was legal strategy. Others saw it as panic, but the silence wasn't interpreted as caution. It was taken as indifference. Tesla's stock slid again. A 7% drop in 24 hours. Billions erased, loyalty shaken, and competitors smelled blood. Ford launched an aggressive marketing campaign for the F-150 Lightning, directly targeting Cybertruck defectors. Rivian pushed reliability as its core message, referencing its own off-road credentials and low defect rate. Even Chevrolet entered the fray, promising a less dramatic but far more dependable electric pickup. In forums once dominated by Tesla hype, the tone shifted. Former superfans started sharing alternatives. Even longtime defenders were asking if the dream was still alive. Meanwhile, Tesla continued its free fix strategy, promise repairs, offer vague delivery timelines, and deflect. But no brand can survive on deflection alone, especially not one built on the promise of the future. In the absence of leadership, narrative control slipped away. The media defined the storyline, analysts framed the failure, and consumers drew their own conclusions. Tesla's most ambitious product had become a symbol of missed warnings, ignored feedback, and blind momentum. At Ford headquarters, a different kind of electric truck was winning over Tesla's defectors. What happened next wasn't a comeback, it was a takeover. With Tesla stumbling, the very companies it vowed to outpace began to surge. The shift wasn't just about technology anymore, it was about trust, and Tesla was losing it. Rivals rise from Tesla's ashes. Tesla's biggest threat wasn't from China, it was from Detroit. As Tesla reeled from its production halts and mounting legal chaos, its rivals saw an opening they couldn't afford to miss. Ford, Rivian, and General Motors didn't just step in, they surged forward with confidence, capital, and coordination. Ford was first to strike. The F-150 Lightning, an electric version of America's best-selling pickup, began headlining every marketing channel. Their slogan, proven, reliable, ready now. It was a thinly veiled jab at the chaos surrounding Tesla. At dealerships, interest spiked. Buyers who had once waited years for a Cybertruck test drive walked into Ford showrooms and drove out with Lightning keys in hand. Rivian moved with surgical precision. The R1T, praised for its off-road capability and intuitive software, targeted outdoor enthusiasts and tech-conscious drivers alike. Online searches for Rivian doubled in the weeks following Tesla's recall announcement. And General Motors? They went wide. The Silverado EV rollout included rebate offers, early delivery perks, and a focus on quality over flash. Their advantage wasn't speed, it was trust. The results came fast. Tesla's U.S. electric truck market share, which had been projected to reach 60% by 2026, began sliding. New reservations fell. Existing Cybertruck order holders either canceled or began cross-shopping competitors. With Tesla distracted, the others were rewriting the future of electric trucks. Tesla's beta test strategy backfires. Tesla's strategy had always relied on iteration. Ship now, patch later. Over-the-air updates were supposed to fix everything, from breaking bugs to autopilot misfires. For years, that approach was praised as revolutionary. But with the Cybertruck, it finally hit a wall. This time, the issue wasn't software, it was hardware. Accelerator pedals that physically jammed, windshield wipers that mechanically failed, stainless steel exteriors that couldn't be repaired at standard body shops. No code could rewrite a bent frame. Early adopters were livid. Some took to YouTube, showing their truck's misalignments and interior rattles. One video titled, "My Cybertruck is Falling Apart," hit over 1 million views in 3 days. Forums became support groups. Instead of praising software updates, owners were trading DIY repair advice and trim realignment tricks. Even more damaging was the sense that Tesla had treated these buyers like testers, not customers. These weren't beta units. They were supposed to be final products. internal leaks revealed that certain quality control checks had been downgraded to meet rollout deadlines. One whistleblower claimed his concerns were dismissed with a phrase that echoed across media headlines: "Let the market tell us." The model that once drove Tesla's success now risked erasing it, from dominance to doubt. The public didn't just lose interest, they lost faith. Cybertruck owners weren't the only ones growing skeptical. Tesla investors began showing signs of fatigue. The once untouchable brand was now linked to photos of flying roof trim and viral complaints about touchscreen-based mirror adjustments. Elon Musk's absence from the conversation didn't help. While customers asked questions, he remained focused on ventures far removed from Tesla's crumbling truck program. X, Neuralink, SpaceX, anywhere but Texas. Media sentiment shifted. Outlets that once celebrated Tesla's disruption began publishing exposés. Headlines like "Tesla lost its grip on the road" and "The dream truck that couldn't drive straight" painted a damning picture. Reservation cancellations accelerated. Buyers were willing to wait months for a Lightning or a Silverado EV, rather than gamble on a glitch-prone Cybertruck. Tesla's software advantages still held weight, but no one buys a truck for its user interface alone. Durability, serviceability, and consistency had become the new battlegrounds. In Silicon Valley, the whispers had begun. Was Tesla still the future? Collapse at scale. One factory shutdown cascaded into a global reckoning. The consequences of Tesla's production halt went far beyond Austin. Suppliers in Mexico, who had ramped up production of proprietary trim and hardware, faced layoffs as orders were frozen. European logistics teams were left managing warehouses full of unsellable parts. Overseas shipping contracts were paused. Thousands of trucks sat idle, some recalled, some incomplete, and others awaiting rework. The backlog became a budgetary time bomb. Tesla, known for its lean operations, was now hemorrhaging from every stage of the pipeline. Shareholders panicked. Analysts revised forecasts downward. Investment firms that once boasted of Tesla's quarterly magic now questioned its fundamentals. Elsewhere, competitors continued stacking wins. Ford expanded its Lightning production capacity. Rivian announced a new distribution partnership, making the R1T available in more than double the locations from the year prior. General Motors fast-tracked the rollout of its Hummer EV SUV, seizing media cycles. Tesla had one massive problem. While they scrambled to fix a product, their rivals had already fixed the message. Safety, reliability, accessibility. Words that once belonged to legacy automakers had become rallying cries in the electric frontier. What came next would test every alliance, from factory to finance. Could Tesla still recover, not just from a recall, but from a reckoning? The Cybertruck wasn't just a vehicle anymore. It had become a mirror reflecting Tesla's limits. And with the world watching, the next move would decide whether this was a comeback story or a collapse. The faithful few. The Cybertruck didn't just attract buyers, it built a following. For every canceled pre-order and returned unit, there remained a core group of believers who refused to give up. They weren't blind. They saw the panel gaps. They watched the wiper malfunctions and listened to the rattles. But they stayed. Why? Because they weren't buying a truck. They were buying a symbol. A rebellion against traditional design, a middle finger to conformity. They believed that once the rough edges were polished, the Cybertruck would still become the blueprint for the future. To them, setbacks didn't erase the mission. They proved it was difficult enough to matter. Tesla leaned into that loyalty. Updates to customer portals included new language. "We're building something no one's built before. Thank you for helping us shape the future." For a moment, the narrative bent back toward hope. The owners who stayed weren't just brand loyalists. They were Tesla's last line of defense. On social media, they fought back against critics. In forums, they shared workarounds and fixes. Some even created guides for improving door seals or touchscreen calibration. In a world of defect videos and lawsuits, they kept the dream alive. But one question loomed larger than fan loyalty. Could Tesla finish what it started? Deep within the service centers, reality painted a more sobering picture. Rebuilding the machine. Tesla was no stranger to production hell, but this was something different. Fixing the Cybertruck wasn't about tweaking a supply line or rewriting code. It was a full-body repair job for an entire manufacturing ecosystem. The stainless steel exoskeleton that made the truck iconic also made it nearly unserviceable. Traditional body shops didn't have the tools or training to work with the material. Tesla had to rapidly scale technician certifications and create specialized equipment just to perform basic repairs. Inside the Austin plant, engineers worked around the clock retrofitting lines. The problematic adhesive used in the roof trim, replaced. The oversized windshield wiper, redesigned. The pedal, completely rebuilt and tested under heat, pressure, and speed. Tesla didn't just need to prove the fixes worked, they had to prove they were permanent. To regain trust, Tesla offered free upgrades to early adopters, updated software, improved cabin insulation, reinforced panels, and even redesigned HVAC routing to address climate control issues. But service centers were already overwhelmed. Wait times stretched into months. Tesla was finally listening to its customers, but many of them had stopped talking. And outside the plant walls, a new challenge was emerging: the regulatory reckoning. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was no longer a passive observer. The Cybertruck's recall had triggered one of the largest ongoing investigations into electric vehicle safety since the dawn of the sector. Documents revealed that engineers had flagged design risks before launch. Internal Slack messages leaked to the media referenced concerns over pedal design, adhesive bonding reliability, and water ingress risks. Legal analysts warned that if it could be proven these warnings were ignored, Tesla wouldn't just face fines, they could face criminal liability. The federal motor vehicle safety standards were being reinterpreted in real time. Regulators began reviewing Tesla's certification process, questioning whether Cybertruck units should have passed inspection at all. Some speculated that regulatory reform would follow, with Tesla as the catalyst. Overseas, European regulators delayed approvals for international Cybertruck deliveries. Safety boards in Germany and the United Kingdom demanded additional testing. Suddenly, the vehicle that was supposed to dominate the globe was struggling to leave the continent. Meanwhile, lawsuits piled higher. Class actions from owners, shareholder litigation alleging deception, consumer protection probes. What began as a design error now threatened to engulf Tesla in a legal storm that could span years. And amid it all, Elon Musk was finally forced to speak, the speech that wasn't enough. Elon Musk returned to the public stage with a live stream event titled "Redefining the Road Ahead." Set inside the Austin factory, flanked by Cybertrucks, he addressed the crisis. He admitted the pedal issue. He promised better testing. He claimed the wiper design had been over-engineered. He spoke of lessons learned. But what he didn't do was apologize. There was no admission of rushing production, no explanation for the adhesive mishap, no reckoning for the missed promises and overhyped timelines. To many, the speech sounded less like accountability and more like damage control. Still, some investors rallied. Shares rebounded slightly. Tesla promised to resume deliveries by late 2025 with a refined and reinforced version of the Cybertruck. But would it be enough? Because in the time it took to redesign, retest, and reassure, the competition had moved forward. Ford had locked in major municipal contracts. Rivian had expanded production to meet fleet demand. General Motors had introduced a mid-size electric truck, priced thousands below Tesla's. The Cybertruck was still futuristic, still bold, still singular. Being different was no longer enough, and Elon's appearance did little to change the growing sentiment. Even inside Tesla, morale was wavering. A leaked internal memo from senior engineering leads warned that the company's internal culture was drifting away from precision and leaning too far into speed. Other employees anonymously disclosed how pressure to meet public deadlines created a culture where concerns were buried instead of raised. In boardrooms and investor calls, the conversation shifted. Tesla's success no longer hinged on new ideas. It depended on revising old ones. Final shift. What began as a revolution was now a referendum. The Cybertruck wasn't just supposed to be another electric vehicle. It was meant to be the vehicle, the one that redefined design, re-engineered materials, and rewrote everything the auto industry thought it knew about what a truck could be. Instead, it exposed the limits of vision untempered by discipline. Tesla promised the future, but the Cybertruck's collapse revealed something deeper, something cultural. This wasn't just a mechanical failure. It was a philosophical one, a product born from rebellion and boldness, executed with haste and hubris, admired from afar but broken under scrutiny. Tesla has always thrived by breaking rules. This time, those rules didn't just resist, they broke back. Yet even now, there's potential buried in the wreckage. Production is slowly restarting. Hardware is being redesigned, software refined. If Tesla can prove it has learned not just how to build, but how to build sustainably, redemption may still be possible. Because the Cybertruck isn't just a vehicle, it's a symbol, a gamble that the radical could go mainstream, And now, its survival doesn't hinge on Elon Musk or fan loyalty or even the raw design. It depends on whether Tesla can stop promising the impossible and start delivering the achievable. The opportunity is still alive, but the second chance, it's disappearing fast. So let's hear from you. Was the Cybertruck a bold step too early or a necessary stumble in the march of innovation? Could any company recover from a failure this massive? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dive breakdowns. And as always, thank you for watching.